Welcome to The Explainer, where we're all about breaking down the big topics. Today, we're cutting right through the hype to get to the real story behind clean hydrogen. Because this is an industry at a huge turning point, you know? It's moving past those big, flashy promises and into the really tough world of actually getting things built. All right, let's kick things off with a number that's, well, it's just massive. $110 billion. That's how much money is committed to clean the hydrogen projects around the world right now. It's a figure that just screams confidence and momentum. And yet, this one sentence from a recent Hydrogen Council report, it just nails the whole story perfectly. Yeah, there's been incredible progress, but wow, there are also some serious challenges. The industry is navigating its way out of the hype cycle and into a much more disciplined phase. So let's get into it. Okay, so to really get what's happening now, we've got to rewind a little bit and look at the sheer scale of the boom we just saw. For a couple of years there, it really did feel like a modern-day gold rush. I mean, the growth has been nothing short of explosive. You're talking about committed investment just skyrocketing, more than 10 times over in only 5 years. From $10 billion back in 2020 to a projected $110 billion by next year. That is a wild rate of acceleration. And all that cash, right, it just fueled this absolute frenzy of announcements. The global project pipeline swelled by 7.5 times, creating this massive queue of potential projects, all trying to grab a piece of the clean energy pie. But you know, just like with any gold rush, a reality check was bound to happen. The industry is now going through what people on the inside are calling a pipeline cleanup, which is really just a natural process of figuring out which projects are real and which were, well, just talk. And look, this cleanup, it has some very real consequences. In just the last year and a half, more than 50 of these big, ambitious projects have been publicly canceled. And honestly, that's probably a lowball estimate, since a lot more were likely just put on ice quietly. So, what's tripping these projects up? Well, the biggest culprit, at 38%, is uncertainty around policy and the market. I mean, it's tough to make billion-dollar bets without clear rules. Then you have another 27% that just couldn't get the funding together, and 16% that had a pretty basic problem. They couldn't find anyone to guarantee they'd actually buy the hydrogen. But here's the fascinating part. The industry leaders, they don't actually see this as a bad thing. They see it as a healthy, necessary step for the industry to, well, to grow up. It's the exact same cycle we saw with solar and wind energy. So the big takeaway is that this shakeout is leaving a smaller, but way stronger and more credible group of projects to build the future on. And this whole situation brings us to the central tension, the big tug of war in the hydrogen story right now. This growing gap between all the hydrogen we could make and the number of customers who are actually ready to buy it. Now get this. Even after you strip out all those canceled projects and delays, the current pipeline could still pump out somewhere between 9 and 14 million tons of clean hydrogen per year by 2030. That's MTPA for short. The ability to produce is absolutely there. And what's really interesting is how this supply side is taking shape around the world. You have China just dominating the build-out of renewable hydrogen using electrolysis. At the same time, North America is the clear leader in low-carbon hydrogen, playing to its strengths in natural gas and carbon capture. The factories are definitely ready to get to work. And that is the great test the industry is facing right now. The whole game has shifted. It's not about proving the tech works anymore. It's all about locking in real, paying customers. And this slide, man, it just lays the challenge bare. Out of that potential 14 million tons of supply, only 3.6 million has a signed, sealed, and delivered contract from a buyer. That's a huge gap between what could be produced and what's actually been sold. So where is this early demand even coming from? Well, about 70% of it is from industries that already use hydrogen anyway. Think fertilizer production or oil refining. They're just switching from the old, dirty kind to the new, clean stuff. The truly new markets, for things like power, steel, and transportation, are really just getting their feet wet. So that's the problem. How does the industry actually solve it? How do we bridge this critical gap and unlock that next big wave of growth to bring those new markets to life? You know, when you talk to the CEOs, the people running these huge projects, they all say the exact same thing. It's not even a debate. The number one thing that makes or breaks a project is certainty of demand. And where does that certainty come from? Almost entirely from clear, stable government policy. This right here, this is the key that unlocks
everything. Policies like Europe's Renewable Energy Directive or Japan's subsidy programs, they create a business case where one just didn't exist before. They basically make the math work, closing that cost gap with fossil fuels by making clean hydrogen either cheaper to make or more valuable to use.
And to be clear, this isn't just theory. It's not some idea on a whiteboard. It is actually working right now, pushing these massive industrial-scale projects over the finish line.
I mean, just take a look at these. Over in Sweden, you've got this massive new plant using renewable hydrogen to make green steel a real thing. And in the US, a world-scale facility is going to produce low-carbon ammonia to ship overseas. These are real projects tackling the toughest industries to clean up, and they prove what's possible when the economics make sense.
So what's the big takeaway from all of this? It's that the clean hydrogen industry is growing up. It has survived the hype. And now it's entering a much more disciplined, more pragmatic era that's focused on real projects, real customers, and real execution. The phase of just making flashy announcements is over. Look, the technology is there, the supply chain is scaling up, the first wave of projects has proven this is all possible. So, the defining question for the next 5 years isn't about whether we can make clean hydrogen, it's whether demand, supercharged by smart and stable policy, will finally rise to the occasion and unlock hydrogen's true potential.